Hi everyone and welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. Well, this week I finally got my hands on the Christopher Ward 12. Well, I say this week, to be honest, I've had it for about 2 weeks. I was traveling last week. I was hoping to get the review out, but what that meant is I got my hands on the Christopher Ward for a little bit longer than I normally do. As a watch reviewer for Christopher Ward, we only get to borrow these watches, so this has to go either back to Christopher Ward or on to the next reviewer, so I don't get to keep this one. So I like to only keep them for about a week or so that it can go on to the next review. I'm going to do this as a more of a conversational review, but I would check out the interview I did with Mike France on the launch day of this watch. Goes into a lot of the history, also goes into the watches that did inspire this, because it does have some similarities, as you've probably seen in other reviews and on forums, people talking about the watches that this looks very similar to. It certainly has watches that it is similar to and watches it inspired it. Mike was very honest about some of those watches and some of the design cues they took from other brands. Even though I'm going to do a conversational review, I'll still put plenty of watch shots in there, but there's some great reviews out there already. Watch Chris, who is a friend of the channel and a friend of mine, he did an excellent review and he also compared this to the PRX. This watch has been likened to a number of other watches, the Chapac Antarctique, for example, the IWC Ingenieur, AP Royal Oak, and also the PRX. Out of all the watches that I've reviewed, and I've reviewed the Royal Oak, I haven't seen the Ingenieur yet, I would say this is most similar to a PRX, but if a PRX had been turned up to 11, if a PRX had that additional refinement and a more of a luxury feel to it, that's where this Christopher Ward would come in, because they've done an excellent job of this. And for the price of $1,225 it's coming in at here in the US for this steel version, I think that is an excellent value for money. You know, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Ward. I think all of their watches are great value for money, even if I don't personally like them. And I'll get to some things that I don't like about this particular version, but they offer unparalleled value for money, in my opinion. Well, let's get around to the watch now. So this is the 12. This is an integrated bracelet sports watch. This is the steel version. They also have a titanium version that is COSC. This one isn't COSC, but it's using the Sellita SW200 movement. This is a 40mm case with a bracelet that tapers from 24 down to 18mm. This is the Glacier Blue version. It has a 38-hour power reserve. It also has a display case back. It's unbelievably only 9.95mm thick, and it has a 44.5 lug-to-lug with male end links, and a bit more about that later. The watch wears beautifully. Here you can see it on my 7.2-inch wrist. I have adjusted this. It uses screw links to adjust the watch. Very easy to do, and it has smaller links towards the butterfly clasp, so you can get quite an exact fit, even though it doesn't include one of Christopher Ward's divers extensions. The butterfly class is executed beautifully, easy to operate. When the two parts of the bracelet meet in the middle, there is no gap whatsoever. The machining is very precise on this. Even though the bracelet is polished, in between each of the individual links there is this high polishing, and Mike talked about that quite a bit in the interview that we did. What that means is it really captures the light. It really glistens when you wear it. You could probably see that on some of the outside shots. The polishing and brushing of the case, sharpness of the corners, the way that the crown guard has been applied with the Allen screw, everything about the case and the bracelet is executed beautifully. The whole watch has a glisten to it. It captures the light. I would almost say a bling factor to it, but I don't know if people still use that terminology, but if they do, it has a bling to it. It just oozes luxury. The inspiration for this watch, those Genta designed watches, this has really captured the essence. The bezel has a high polishing to it and also a brushing, and that's where the watch gets its name 12 from, because it has a 12-sided bezel. The dial with its applied indices and hands, the dial itself pattern that they've done, which is a combination of their logo, their twin flags logo, which is a combination of the British and the Swiss flag. It's hard to see this in photos, but the embossing on the dial is very distinctive in person, and on this blue version I'm actually not a fan of that. I don't think it works particularly well for my taste with this glacier blue dial. I think if I was going to pick one of these up, and I very well might, because this is just beautifully executed. You know, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Ward. Some people would say I was biased towards them, and they're probably right. Even though I've reviewed many of their watches, and some I haven't liked for my own taste, but all of them are very well machined. Everything that you would expect from a luxury watch, but they don't charge luxury watch prices. They really are giving the middle finger to a lot of the Swiss brands. Their execution, the indices and the hands are different. We don't have the trident on the back of the second hand. It's a more sophisticated handset. We don't have that razor edge, that highly pointed edge on the hour hand like some of the other Christopher Ward watches. This handset really suits the design. The indices with that high polishing and brushing on them work together with the hands. There's been a lot of thought put into the hands and the indices. The movement in here is the SW200. The titanium version has a COSC certified SW300, which I'm really interested to see. Even though it's a sports dress watch, it still has excellent lume using superluminova. There is an anti-reflective coating on the flat sapphire crystal, and also there is an exhibition case back on here. Even though I'm personally not a fan of this dial, I still think they've done an excellent job of this watch. Wears very comfortably, even though it is maybe larger, some would consider at 40mm. It wears very comfortably. They've done this sports watch design to a T. There is also a rubber strap that you can buy for this. One of the interesting things on here is the bracelet is quick release, and I didn't even think about the fact that the quick release is on the watch and not on the bracelet. Most other Christopher Ward, the bracelet has the quick release, but this one, the quick release is on the watch itself. It makes it a little bit fiddlier to get on and off, but once you get the trick of it, and there is only two strap options for this at the moment. One is the rubber, and then this is the bracelet. I would highly encourage you to buy this on the bracelet. The bracelet really complements the overall design and the wearability of this watch, and then maybe add the rubber as an extra. But overall, excellent design. I think I will be adding one of these to my collection. I would say the competitor to this, the closest that I've reviewed, is the PRX. Tissot have done an excellent job of that PRX as well. If you're wanting a PRX, but the next level up, this is where the Christopher Ward fits in beautifully. Really interested to know your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews. Thanks guys, bye.